I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction.
I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Raising the debt ceilings does not increase our debt. It does not somehow promote profligacy.
I know words. I have the best words. Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it.
Back with me. Doing a Wednesday show this week. Actually, is that 2 weeks in a row?
I think that's right.
Yeah, it's Justin Hillbilly Boy Campbell. What's happening over there?
Oh,
Why
Sean
did you
got his
screw up
dri-
our schedule again this week?
well, it was my wife's birthday yesterday, so
Okay, we'll let it slide. You already
and
hit
Sean
me.
got his driver's license today, so it's been a big week around here.
Oh, driver's license and a fucking girlfriend.
He's
But,
on the up and up, huh?
Yeah, I still got to drop about 50 pounds.
He's going to graduate high school early, so
But he's one of those illiterate graduates, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, reading is not
I'm
high.
still because you always talk about how he never does his fucking schoolwork, and somehow he's graduating early.
Okay, this little motherfucker he has figured out how to game the system, and don't hate the player, hate the game, I guess. So what he's figured out is he can just not do anything and fuck off and fail everything, and then go back and take they do like summer school type stuff, but basically it's just like a course packet. Like they give you a course packet, and if you have X number of like weeks for the summer in which to complete all of these course packets. And if you get all of it done, then you get credit recovery for it. So you get credit for having taken these classes for just doing this like recovery packet. So you have to, fill out all the stuff, do all these like worksheets and tests and a final and everything else. And as long as you finish all of that within the required amount of time and you pass all of that, then you get credit for the whole class, like you went for the whole year. So he can dick off and fail and do nothing, and then spend 3 weeks doing this packet and get credit for it, like he did everything that he was supposed to. I can't really be mad at it. Like, I don't like it, but I mean, if that's if that's what they'll let you do, then I can't.
Yeah. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, to me, then why is the school year longer than 3 months?
Right.
If apparently you can become proficient in whatever the fuck they're telling you in a summer, then we don't need the other 9 months of the year in school.
Right. Like y'all do understand that all of this like credit recovery stuff basically tells us that you're not teaching these kids fucking anything, and that every bit of what you are teaching them, they can learn from home, sitting in their bedrooms while also playing Fortnite at the same time. Because that's what he did last summer. Like he made up like 4 different classes last summer while also simultaneously sitting in his room playing Fortnite. Thank you for everybody that's like, oh, what would we do without the Department of Education? I don't know, but it's bound to be better than what the fuck we're doing with the Department of Education, where my son can literally make up his entire spring semester in 3 weeks while simultaneously playing Fortnite.
Yeah. So wait, are you worried that he's not learned, like he doesn't know anything, or are you just like, I think he's got it down and he just figured out a way to
He's
to
a
get
sharp
through
kid. He knows the stuff. He just chooses not to apply himself. And like, which I get it. I get it. I hated homework. When I got to college, I had terrible grades in college because I kind of took the approach of like, we're adults, homework is for kids, fuck that shit. If a course required homework for a grade, then either I wasn't going to get I wasn't going to do the homework and get a grade for it, or I would drop it and take it next semester with a professor that didn't do homework grades. Like I wasn't doing fucking homework when I was in college. So like I get it. And there was a couple classes that like I set the curve on every test, but still made a C in the class because I was not doing homework and I was not doing the like participation grade bullshit. Like I'm here to learn what I need to learn for this fucking class. I don't need like all this extracurricular bullshit. And
Yeah.
I had a bad attitude in college, but
Well, I mean, you're paying all this fucking money for a college degree. You should be able to kind of take it on your terms. The participation thing always drove me fucking crazy. That's just the teacher being lazy. He's like, well, I don't want to have to fucking do the whole class. So I need other people to kind of fill in for me during the class. I always fucking did terrible with the participation thing. I would like begrudgingly say something like maybe once a week just because I knew like it was going to fuck up my grade completely if I didn't. But yeah, that's just like, to me, that's just like, yeah, the teacher doesn't want to have to talk for 2.5 hours. He wants to get like a discussion going or something. That's what I would do if I was like fucking hungover and I didn't prepare anything. It's like, okay, we're having a participation day. Your grade depends on it. So everybody else do work today. And I'm just going to fucking stand here and facilitate the conversation.
now, I did have one class that I actively participated in, but it was a English comp class, and everything was based on everything that we wrote in comp was a position piece. So you would be given like different topics and you would pick one side of the argument for the topic and you had to make your case, but also in your paper, you had to explain the other side of the argument and why that was wrong and like justify your own case. So the way the professor did the course was you would come in the morning and he would just have a bunch of stuff written on the board and he'd be like, all right, pick something. And you would pick one of the topics off the board and state your case for it. And then he would state the opposite side of it. And so he would go around the class and try to get people to engage with him. And it was an 8 a.m. freshman English comp class. So like nobody wanted to talk. And I will argue until I'm blue in the face. So like that was class made for me. So
Yeah.
Inevitably he would be like, all right, Justin, what do you think? And then we'd get to going back and forth. And then we'd just run through all the topics on the board. And I'd take one side, he'd take the other. We'd go back and forth. And it was a lot of fun. Like, I really liked that. And it made me think about the way I took a position on stuff, which has actually helped me with, like, being able to look at shit going on in the world and stuff. And, like, whenever I take a position on something, I feel like I'm being pretty objective with it because I do understand, like, having to look at both sides of the case and be like, all right, so, like, you know, obviously – there's some logical flaws with this side of the argument. And there are also some flaws with this side of the argument, but, you know, picking the one that fits better to what I think is the correct outcome. Like I thought that was really helpful in a good class, but, you know, again, freshman English comp class at 8 a.m., it was hard to get a whole lot of participation out of the rest of the class most of the time.
Yeah. And again, every course you take freshman year is just a fucking scam. It's essentially high school over again, just because they want to bilk you for whatever, like just whatever outrageous cost that they were able to get out of you per credit hour. Because the fucking government is involved in, like, I still can't believe that there's not like, I actually saw something, it might have been on Twitter like this past week, where they're just like, it was talking about the cost of college tuition. And it's like, what happened in like the 1970s or something that just like before 1976 or 78 or something, you could just work a summer job as like a waiter and you could pay for your entire college degree every year. And it's just like, yeah, well, what changed? What changed exactly? And it's like, oh, they started loaning money to these kids because, I mean, it's all government fucking bullshit. They wanted to court the young vote, and, you know, kids would rather, you know, all else being equal, not have to work the summer and go on summer vacation, go out and fucking party, do some traveling, whatever, instead of having to work a summer job to pay for your classes. And so they promised these kids, be like, hey, you know, we'll institute these like government-backed loans, and then you don't have to work the summers. You deserve your summers off. I mean, come on, you're going to get this great job after you graduate because now you're a college graduate, and you'll just pay the money back from that. You'll make more than enough. And of course, that sounds appealing to any 17, 18-year-old kid. You know, they lowered the voting age to 18. And so that's the beginning of it. And then it just keeps feeding on itself exponentially until the government's loaning directly to the kids. And you can just look at a chart of it. It's not, and every time I have this conversation with people, they'll kind of be like, yeah, I'm sure that's like part of it, but like, there's got to be more to it than that. I was like, no, there doesn't. Like the free market is such a fucking intricate thing. If you put your thumb on one of the scales, just a little bit, you fuck everything up. Just the idea of loaning an 18-year-old retard a bunch of money to go read books for 4 years and talk at 8 o'clock in the morning about English shit, it like that fucks it up. That completely fucks it up. And then you have this this dynamic going on where it's like, okay, now you're encouraging more and more people to go to college and get these degrees. So you increase the demand, and then then you have more and more graduates with each degree. So you're like, and you have the inflation that you've created by printing all this fucking money and loaning it out to people. So you're inflating the currency, you're inflating the degree, and it's just like it's a downward spiral. And it's so straightforward and obvious. I can't understand how all of these highly educated people with their fancy degrees can't pick up on this fucking scam. And it's amazing to me. I didn't think I sent you this one because it was talking about how like all these redneck states just have all these they've had these Republican governors, and they're like the poorest, least educated ones around. But I'm like, yeah, but the dumbest people, or the least educated, I should say, seem to have picked up on the college scam a lot earlier than all of these elitist college graduates. Here, play that Nancy Pelosi clip real quick.
I was going to say this all ties right into the Nancy Pelosi clip that you had sent, and how they're, their entire motivation. They're just, somebody needs to think about the children.
To me, it's because my whole mission in politics is about the children, for the children. And
the hell, why isn't it playing?
To me, it's because my whole mission in politics is about the children, for the children.
It's working.
I went from housewife to House Speaker, or from the kitchen to the Congress, for the children, because 1 in 5 children in America is living in poverty and going to sleep hungry at night. Now this bill comes along and makes matters worse. To me.
So Nancy Pelosi is clearly in it for the children. I can't imagine being able to say that with a straight face and being like one of these politicians. But I mean, the idea that this is for the children, while everybody that's, this has become $1 billion industry, $1 trillion. The student loan debts are in the trillions now. The banks are getting fucking rich off of it. The school system, like everybody in these colleges, are getting filthy fucking rich off of it. The administration, bureaucracy, and the government now has generations of completely dependent voters who are like, imagine. Like, what are the biggest problems that are facing the children this day and age? After the children, they go through this whole school system. They're ready to enter the workforce. They've become adults. What are the biggest problems they face? can't get a fucking job because they have these worthless degrees. They can't afford to pay back their student loans. Those are the two biggest fucking things, right? And then, yeah, obviously there's no chance of them buying a house or something because they already have a mortgage. They've already taken on a mortgage at age 22 but they don't have a house. They just have this piece of paper that says, congratulations. You managed to get a C average fucking around for 4 years, learning, Chicano studies or whatever the fuck a humanities degree. They did it for the children. And this bill is obviously against the children because I'm not exactly sure what's in the big, beautiful bill that hurts children. They're cutting education. Yes, I know they're gashing Medicare and Medicaid. So maybe there's some kids on Medicaid, poor children. And then the food assistance, the welfare programs that provide food for all these children, which again, to me, dude, the way they look at these things where it's just like, oh, there's like 20 million kids that are dependent on welfare. Well, how many were dependent on welfare before we had welfare? And when welfare first was introduced, how many kids were dependent on it then? Because if it was less than 20 million, then this program is not a success. It's a failure. Because all of a sudden you have more kids dependent on it than before the thing ever even existed. So we're getting poorer as a country? Or are you just creating a dependent class of people who are trapped in this game of poverty?
I love the comment section on that post, on that video. The number of times people mention how pro-abortion Nancy Pelosi is, or how the Biden administration lost 500,000 immigrant children over the course of his 4 years. They lost 500,000 children. Yeah, she's so pro child. Like that's all they care about is the children.
It's so fucking cliche. And to be coming out there and trying, like, that line would have worked when Nancy Pelosi first got into politics in like 1967 or something. But it's just like, that shit does not work anymore. You can't claim to be for the children. Nancy Pelosi, who's making hundreds of millions of dollars insider trading, directly leveraging her power in politics. And destroying the lot. Generations of children are completely fucked because of all of these government policies that they've borne no fruit whatsoever. Like I said, there's not one government program that you can point to and say this is a success. And how do you even define success? Like Nancy Pelosi defines it by like more and more people being dependent on it. Now, if I was running a fucking charity of some, like, let's say I wanted to pull kids out of poverty, I would be like, hey, like, we started out, we had 10,000 kids in this program that needed this every fucking year. And now we only have 7,500. So we've pulled 2,500 kids out of poverty and look how well they're doing. Not like, oh, we started out with 10,000 and now I have 20,000. That's not a success. That's the opposite of success. The goal is not to get everybody dependent on government programs. Or at least from our perspective, it's not. From their perspective, yes, obviously. Obviously, the government, like, this is why all these programs continue to get more and more funding and never actually succeed in anything. Because if you're running the welfare program, do you want more people involved in your program or less? Well, obviously, you want the job. So, yeah, you're going to want more people involved. And then every time they try to cut the budget, which is, again, I know we've beaten this horse to death. These aren't actual cuts. But every time they try to institute like a modicum of like restraint when it comes to the growth in spending, it's like, oh, my God, the children, you're taking food off their table. They're going to go to bed starving. No, none of that's going to happen. It's fucking laughable, dude. We're spending so much, like how much more money are we spending today than we were 5 years ago, like before COVID? Remember when we added like $7 trillion to the fucking budget, whatever it was? Like we're never even going back to before COVID spending levels. Were kids just starving to death in 2019? I don't remember. Maybe they all just died off from COVID.
Okay, so I figured out how I found an article that gives the full explanation of how this is going to be directly impacting children. How the big beautiful bill is going to just crush children. It's all stuff that we've actually already debunked and talked about. It's the Medicaid cuts, which are all over the course of time. It's not too direct recipient type stuff. Like we've already gone through all of that. It's cuts to SNAP, which is not actually cuts to SNAP. It is recategorizing the way those benefits can be used at the grocery store to prevent fraud and to prevent misuse of the funds for, junk or like there are places that you can use like food stamps and those types of stuff to buy junk shit over the counter, like junk food and stuff like that, and even cigarettes in some cases if you can get the person to work the register right, like from gas stations and stuff using EBT and that sort of stuff. Like it's trying to cut out the fraud and the waste and the unhealthy, like non actually going towards food for helping needy families type stuff on the SNAP. And then, and then the final one is there's a new child tax credit, or an increase to the child tax credit. It'll take it from $2,000 to $2,500, which that seems like that would help the children, yes. Except that the reason that the Democrats say that this is going to hurt kids is because there is a provision in there to prevent illegals from being able to use it for their own kids. Like if you're here illegally and you don't have a social security number, you're not like registered and paying taxes, then you don't get a tax credit for your kids. Like apparently they've been able to get money back for, like illegals have been able to get a tax return for having kids. Like, wait, what? So this like cuts all of that out. So that's how the big beautiful bill is gonna like kill children.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, if you're planning on having a kid and you cannot feed said kid and you cannot provide medical care for said kid, and a lot of times they can't provide housing for said kid, those are like the three things that you got to do when you have a kid. You got to feed it, you got to house it, and you have to make sure like it's got medical care. Those are like the fucking three pillars of child rearing. And then I suppose you could add education to that as well. Like, you shouldn't be having kids. You can't do any of those things. If you can't do those three things minimum, don't have kids.
I have said many times my favorite part of the like dystopian future stuff is when they require people to go through an application process to be able to have children. It's like, yes, like everybody should have to go through an application process to be allowed to have children. And
yeah, what a utopia that would be. But I mean, we can make it simpler. If you're on any of these fucking handouts, you're sterilized. You're sterilized until you're off welfare. Like maybe they could put something in the food, in all the EBT card food, where it's like if you're eating this stuff that you used from an EBT card, you just can't reproduce until you stop doing it. I don't know, but like I'm sorry, dude. Like we cannot be fucking incentivizing people who cannot afford any of the things that it takes to have a kid to have kids. Why are giving a tax credit to somebody who, first of all, those people don't pay any taxes either. Like, I don't know, dude. The whole thing's fucking ridiculous. But to pretend that if you really cared about children you wouldn't be doing any of these. You would know that government programs don't help children. They never have. They never will. The only thing government programs help are people in government, people connected to government. That's why the richest counties in the country are all in and around Washington, D.C. And that's why none of these politicians are sending their kids to any, like they're not using any of these government programs. They're not using the government education system. They're sending their kids to private school. They're not using any of these fucking government things. Of course not. And they're getting filthy fucking rich in the process. Like, it's amazing to watch how much money these politicians make when they like the AOCs of the world first get into Congress to now. Like, well, in the alternate universe where AOC is still a bartender, how much is she making versus what she's making now? And she's going to be in, dude, AOC is going to be like basically the next Nancy Pelosi. Like, she's going to be in government for the next 50 years. It's going to be, like 2 generations from now, they're going to be making fun of her for being the old fucking bag that won't give up power. She's not going anywhere. She's not doing anything else. She's going to be a government parasite for the rest of her life. And she's only 35. And so she's going to live for at least another fucking 40 plus years. You got her for another, she's going to be 85, 88. They're going to be wheeling her out like they were that, what's her face, for a vote.
Dianne Feinstein.
That's going to be AOC in fucking 50 years. And it's going to be all of them. And she's going to be worth, like, built by then with all the inflation, probably trillions of dollars. And what is she going to have done for the children besides trap them in this cycle of dependency? Every single one of these programs, every single thing the government does is designed to trap you in dependency. There's not one program. They'll claim it's, even Social Security. I mean, I've made this argument a bunch of times, but like, that is, they take money from you now and they'll give it to you a little bit at a time after you retire. Can you get it all at once? No. Because then you wouldn't need them. Then they wouldn't be able to get your vote from 65 to whenever the fuck you die.
And if you decide to retire before they say it's time for you to retire, then they penalize you for it.
Exactly. And there's a massive opportunity cost to, think of how much the purchasing power they're going to destroy from the time I was 15 when they started stealing money from me for this fucking Ponzi scheme, and the time I'm 65. Like, what's a dollar going to a 2000 and fucking $2, $2001, $2003 versus a fucking 2047 dollar? Those aren't the same. And there's a massive opportunity cost to what I could have done with the money versus what they could have done. So it's just a horrible return on the investment anyway. But think about the program. They make it so you can never have enough on your own playing if you live by their formula, which is like, you go to school, then you go to college, borrow money to go to college, and then you work the 9 to 5. And we're going to take like 40% of that before it even touches your fucking paycheck, so that you can never really get out of that 9 to 5 hamster wheel. You're stuck on that until you're 65. And then you don't have to run the wheel anymore, but you still can't have all your money back. You got to come back to me every fucking month, and I'll break you off a little walking around money so you can make it to the next month. It's all designed to trap you in fucking dependency. And they just keep creating these programs and then threatening to take them away to scare you into voting. I mean, healthcare is another good one. Obamacare. Remember when Trump's first election, he was like going to repeal and replace Obamacare. That never happened. Nobody's even talking about, nobody's going to touch that anymore. So Obamacare is just a permanent entitlement now. And Social Security was the exact same thing. Medicare, Medicaid, these things are never going to go away because too many people are dependent on them and feel like they're entitled to them. And man, it must be a miserable existence to be that dependent on politicians. But if they really cared about you, if you really cared about somebody, would you want to trap them in that kind of cycle and have them depend? Like, you have kids, you want them dependent on you for their entire lives? Or do you care about them and you want to prepare them to go off on their own and be successful?
I don't want them fuckers depending on me right now.
Right. But it's not because you don't love them.
Right.
You don't care about them. Maybe
Right.
a little bit, but no, just kidding. But like, everybody with kids loves their kids to death. It does not want them to be dependent on them for their entire lives. And it's not because they, they don't want to keep taking care of them or something.
Well,
it's because they realize that that's not in their best interest.
And that's a conversation I've had with my kids multiple times over the course of, them being in school and everything. Is they'll be like, they'll ask for help with something, schoolwork or something else, and they'll be like, well, how do I do this? And I'll explain it, and then I walk away. And they're like, well, what's the answer? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You figure out the answer. Like, I told you how to do it. Now you do it. I don't care what the answer is. I don't have a grade staked on this. And I've told them that many times too. Like, I will 100% absolutely let you fail. Like, success is an option you have and a choice you make. I will give you all the tools to be successful, but being successful is dependent on you. And like that's the thing that's removed from the way the government handles things. Is it's like, oh, we'll make you successful. Well, the problem is, if you rely on somebody else to make you successful, you're only going to be as successful as they allow you to be. Like,
yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, to this point, it's not your property either. Yeah, property taxes are great. It's like you don't even own that. But yeah, when you can learn a lot more from failure than you can success. And the government, oh God, it's disgusting what they do to people. I'm sorry, dude. And to have them come out here and say, oh yeah, I'm just for the children, and anybody that wants to take away some of these benefits doesn't care about children, is it's just so disingenuous and frustrating to watch people still fall for at this day and age when they have nothing to show for it. There's no modicum of success in any of these programs. They're all objectively complete failures. And there's, I mean, all the money that we're pouring into these things and getting no results. And it's just like, okay, but the next trillion, that's really going to do it. We're always just 1 trillion away from this fucking government utopia. But
or maybe this time we're 4 trillion away, and then Elon Musk is not super pleased with that.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Same goes for women. I'm just kidding. But so these are the Republicans, by the way. These are the fiscal conservatives who I've never seen actually cut anything. Every time they get control of all 3 branches of government, they pass massive spending bills every single time. So they're just as full of shit as the Democrat side. And it's, I mean, yeah, the 4 trillion is what they want to raise the debt ceiling by immediately. And then, yeah, the estimates of what this adds to the debt, because they want to give tax cuts to everybody, but they also want to increase spending. And they just, I don't know, somehow they think that we're just going to grow our way out of this. We're already over 120% debt to GDP. It's like 123, 124% were the last numbers I saw, which is historically not a good level to be at. And the idea that you're going to grow your way out of this by giving some, some tax cuts to the rich, the so-called rich, who are going to use that money to invest in plant and equipment and grow the economy. Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but if you just continue to fucking grow government at a much faster rate, you're never gonna be able to balance that out. You can't grow your way out of this when government's growing at it like exponentially faster. I mean, just look at these budgets. Look how much they're growing their spending by every year, and there's no way that you can have a parasite like government sucking all of the productive mojo out of the economy, and then somehow you're going to grow your way out of it. It can't work. It can't work when you have this massive parasite in Washington, D.C. You just can't do it. There's no way that there's enough extra production to straighten that out. You have to get rid of the parasite. And we're like, you and me want to fucking, we're crazy like that. We want to remove the fucking parasite from the host. Everybody else is just like, yeah, maybe we just shrink the parasite a little bit. But even if you're just like, yeah, we just want to shrink the parasite by 1%. And they'll claim that if you do that, then that's going to kill the host somehow. It's ridiculous. And yeah, dude, the Doge thing, I mean, I don't think we were really under any illusions that they were going to cut $2 trillion or somehow. I remember talking about this. I think I did a Substack on it, but also like we just talked about it on the podcast, where it's just like, if they're not going to touch any like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, or defense spending, like there's just not enough. There's nothing else that you can really get rid of. You'd have to get rid of 100% of everything else just to get to the $2 trillion.
And that's the thing. And like Doge identified a ton of waste, and there was some stuff that was like some minimal stuff that was done that they obviously lost their ever-loving shit over, even though it was really like pretty much nothing. Like I don't think that any of those like department closures or anything like that actually stuck. It was like short-term giving people the option to quit and stuff like that, and like minimal reduction in staffing and stuff like that. Most of it was just saying, hey, look, like this is where we are wasting a metric fuck ton of money. This is stuff that could be cleaned up. None of that's actually been cleaned up. Nothing's actually been done about that. And like the Zero Hedge article you sent me before we started, that's what it talks about, is how like they haven't actually done any of this stuff. There's the big beautiful bill is obviously a disappointment. There's another bill that's not been passed that would actually like codify eliminating a lot of this waste and stuff, that it's still sitting out there waiting to move forward. Like nothing's happening with it.
And to Magoo's point, I mean, good luck getting the votes to do that. There's nobody in Congress to vote for. Like, what do you have? You have Thomas Massey, and then you have Rand Paul and the fucking set. Like, that's it. You got like two guys that are principled enough to vote to like be like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. And that's literally. And then Ron Johnson, right? That's the other. I think there's actually a clip from him in that article where he's talking about this. Kind of towards the bottom, maybe. I think that's Ron Johnson, where it's just like, yo, dude, they're not even. It's. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's just fucking depressing. Like, if there was ever an opportunity to tackle any of this in some sort of meaningful way, it was this administration. It was this fucking the last 100 days. It was Doge, and what do you get for it? You get absolutely, like, they identify a bunch of shit, and then everyone in Congress is just like, yeah, no, we're not interested. Republicans have control of everything. They're like, yeah, $4 trillion, add that to the debt ceiling. Donald Trump berates Thomas Massey for not voting for it. And oh God, yeah, go ahead and roll this. Let's see what he has to say. This is like one of the fucking, the hawks on spending.
I would ask the question, where are the rescission packages so we can codify the Doge savings? You know, I'm listening to Elon Musk over the weekend, pretty disappointed in this House package as well. If I were him and all the work he put into Doge, and yeah, we maybe stop spending the money, but I don't know if they can eliminate it by impoundment. That's going to be subject to the courts. We need to actually incorporate that into rescission packages so we can eliminate that spending that the Doge found out. Again, I'm not sure all the Doge savings were strictly discretionary. Maybe some of that is in mandatory spending as well, but we're not getting the information from the administration.
Yeah.
And we certainly haven't gotten a rescission package yet.
Well, this is really important because I was questioning why it is that the House Republicans refuse to codify into law, codify the Doge cuts. What's the problem? I mean, all of that wasteful spending that Doge exposed from, for example, one agency, USAID.
Well, Doge was brilliant, and that was a combination of Elon Musk and President Trump. But where's President Trump been in terms of putting pressure on the House to actually codify those rescissions? Where's President from a standpoint of actually embracing a reasonable pre-pandemic level of spending? You don't defeat the deep state by continuing to fund it at President Biden's levels, but that's exactly what the House bill does.
Yeah, well, this just in. Donald Trump loves to fucking borrow money and spend it. There's nothing new there. And this is like every president wants to have wants to be able to point to all the money that they're spending and look how we grow the economy, look at the GDP, because government spending is a huge portion of it. And so, I mean, yeah, of course he's like upset, like he wants to, it's a big, beautiful bill for him because they get to fucking point to all this stuff that they did. And, you know, all this money will flow into the fucking stock market. He can be like, yo, look at this economy I've built. It's the most beautiful economy ever. It's big and it's beautiful. And it's all bullshit. It's all fucking inflationary. And he was just talking about going back to pre-pandemic levels of spending. That's never going to happen. And if you remember at the time in 2020, they're like, oh, this is an emergency. It's like a one-time thing. It's like a once in, 10 generations pandemic. We have to spend all this money. And then, they'll say, yeah, as soon as we get through this, we can go back to the way we were, except that never happens. It didn't happen then. It didn't happen in 2008 when they had the Wall Street bailouts. I mean, dude, just think back to remember how big of a deal those were? And it was only like 800 billion or something.
How many once in a generation spending increases have we seen in our lifetime?
Right. Yeah, that's like the millennial meme. It's like I'm living through my third fucking recession and like second housing crisis.
Government should be encouraging people to have more kids. That way they can create new generations. So it can be like, all right, like this is our next, like this is the next generation. This is going to be a once in this generation like spending increase.
Yeah. Well, they certainly need more fucking cash cows to bilk. Yeah, I don't even know what else you can really say. So like you have these fiscal conservatives that every time they get control of everything, spend more money than the Democrat administration before them. Trump spent more money than Obama. Biden spent more money than Trump. Now Trump's spending more money than Biden. Dude, after the Trump pandemic spending, which was like Trump was like a little bit below the average year deficits. I forget exactly what they were. Maybe like 800 billion or something compared to like 900 or almost $1 trillion. And then with the 2020 injection, those shot up to like $2 trillion, a $2 trillion deficit. And then Biden took it all the way back down to like $1.5 trillion a year increase. And that's where we're above that. And there's no talk of going back to that. Just 5 years ago, you can't roll back any of this thing. You cannot roll back. It's fucking impossible. Short of like some massive revolution, I don't see how it's ever going to happen. Because there's no appetite for it. Like everybody that would have to vote to roll back government in any meaningful way is directly dependent. Like I was just saying, AOC wants to have this job for the next 50 years. So she's never going to vote to cut anything. That would be taking money out of her own fat fucking pockets. So obviously she's never going to do that. And yeah, maybe you get like one or two like principled guys who have built. I mean, and it's always like amazing to me that I mean, it's no coincidence that Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, like these people were successful in their own right before getting into government. And so they don't need to have to just be like a parasite in Washington, D.C. to get rich off of. But all these other people, like they would be nothing. Like think of how unimpressive all of these people are. They would not be making millions of dollars. None of them. Nancy Pelosi and fucking Lindsey Graham, fucking who's the turtle guy? Mitch McConnell. Aunt Esther, fucking Maxine Waters. You think Maxine Waters would be worth millions of dollars in the free market?
Hank Johnson is still my favorite.
Yes. Any day now, Guam is gonna fucking tip over. If one more plane lands on that fucking island, look out. I mean, dude, there's no way to roll this back using if you have to depend, like, who's going to vote to take away their fucking livelihood? Nobody.
I'm pretty sure Hank Johnson is Magoo's representative, and he keeps voting for the guy because he's hoping that one day Guam will actually tip over, and then we can have Hank Johnson up there being like, I told you so. Do it for the lulz.
Well, then it would be blamed on climate change, though. Guam is now upside down. Would it still be an island? I suppose.
I mean, technically.
You just got to move everything to the other side. Just quickly scramble everything, flip it over. Be fine. Balance it out. Move a couple tanks over that way a little bit.
Oh God. Wouldn't it be amazing if that was the way islands actually worked?
Well, it's like, dude, if the American people get any fucking fatter, the U.S. might fucking flip over. Dude, but I mean, what are we going to do here? What could we possibly do? Because there's no meaningful energy in Washington, D.C. to turn this around, to even just kind of put us on a somewhat more sustainable path. There's none. And every time they introduced something that's not even a cut, that reduces the growth of these programs by 1% a year.
Right. They never actually introduce anything that cuts how much is spent. They cut the rate at which it's being spent. Like, we're not going to spend any less. We're just not going to spend it quite as fast. Like,
yeah. We're going to drive. Instead of driving off the cliff at 100 miles an hour, we're going to pull it back to like 88. Okay. That sounds like a fucking plan. And then you look at like, oh, go ahead.
As what you were making the host parasite comparison earlier, like, if you're not going to kill the parasite somehow, the only way that this ends is for the host to die. Like, how far away are we from that? Like, how much more can you bleed this fucking thing dry before it's finally out? And it's like, all right, now what?
Yeah. And then the whole fucking thing collapses, and the narrative is going to be it collapsed because of deregulation and capitalism. And so now we need AOC style socialism. And that will just collapse it even fucking further. There's a parasite on the host, and then the host has like Stockholm syndrome with the parasite. Somehow the parasite has convinced the host that without the parasite, they wouldn't be able to survive. It's the most retarded diet, and it's not a surprise, I guess, because the host or the parasite's in charge of educating everybody, teaching the host everything. So yes, they've taught the host that without the parasite, you wouldn't be able to fucking survive. You just be thankful that the parasite isn't draining you any quicker. Oh, dude, it is a goddamn mess. And then you look at something like Argentina, which can give you a glimmer of hope because they were completely fucked, and in a matter of like 2 years, completely turned things around. But how did they do that? Well, yeah, completely might be an overstatement, but
significantly.
Yeah. And how did he do that? Did he do that by, he's like, okay, yeah, we have 18 of these departments. They're growing at 18% a year. So we're going to grow them at 15% a year. A 3% cut. or whatever. No, that's not what he said. He's like, we're getting rid of this department. We're getting rid of that department. This is gone. That's gone. And there's just no appetite for that in the US. The things haven't gotten bad enough. And even unfortunately, once things get to that sort of level, the level of inflation they had in Argentina, which was fucking crazy, like 1,000% a year or some shit, was like insane. You still have to endure that for like a decade before people finally capitulate. And they're like, yeah, maybe we're ready to get rid of the ministry of whatever retarded fucking thing that we have. All these stupid committees and things that you don't even know they exist. One of those articles I sent you on the Chicago minimum wage thing, or the what do they call it? Sub minimum wage or whatever for waiters. It had like there's some sort of restaurant committee or something in Illinois. I forget exactly how they phrased it. It's somewhere in the article. I was like, wait, we need that? Like the government has that? What do we need that for? There's hundreds of them, and there's no way we need all of this stuff. So can we just start getting rid of it? Don't advertise it. Just do it. Just get rid of it. Don't write the story on it and see if anybody notices. Could that possibly take place? Of course not, because then there'll be some judge that says, "Oh, you're violating the Constitution." Pull up the the Illinois. There we go.
Chicago, where the wind is cold and the people are low. Broken down buildings, ain't no place to go. But the music keeps playing in shithole Chicago.
Yeah, so we have a lot of news coming out of Chicago these days. Let's start with this one, because this, I think, has a lot as countrywide implications, because you do hear this is like minimum wage combined with sort of like what happens in the restaurant industry specifically. Chicago restaurateurs push to repeal a law that raises tipped wages. And basically, it was called the One Fair Wage Law. And so if you scroll down, I think when it went into effect, it took so I always thought that, like, I mean, I know this varies from state to state or whatever, but like, I was like, oh yeah, like waiters make like $2.50 an hour or something, and then they live off of the tips. This apparently, they start at like $9 an hour, which is above the federal minimum wage in Chicago. And then they get tips on top of that. And then there's just built-in increases to this until it gets to, I forget where the cap, there's no cap on it. But like if any month the waiter or waitress or whatever, the tipped worker doesn't make enough to balance out the minimum wage in Chicago is apparently $15 an hour. I didn't know that either. The restaurant is supposed to make up the difference. But can you go back to the beginning of that? I think it gives you the number where it starts at. And the first increase was to like 11 something.
Yeah, I saw that just a second ago. It's a little bit further down, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first wage increase last year went from $9.48 per hour to $11.02, with an annual 8% increase until 2028, when tipped workers' wages will match the city's standard minimum wage. The second increase will take effect in July.
Yeah. So everybody in Chicago that can't afford to eat out, this might have something to do with it. The guy that they quoted in this article, he owns a couple of restaurants, which I've been to. He was saying, he's like, yeah, I had to lay off like 20 workers. We had like 65 workers. Now we're down to like 45 or something like that because of these increases. And I mean, this is just a very predictable thing where you artificially just raise the wages of people. I mean, his he said his workers on average, they were making like $35 an hour before tips, or maybe that was with tips. I can't remember exactly. But dude, a waiter making $35 an hour, like 70 grand a year, is fucking insane to me. No wonder the prices of these fucking of going out to eat is so high. But good luck. You know, this is like this was our favorite mayor's big push when he first got into office. And this is obviously, this affects, you know, he put it into, yeah, there it is, $35 an hour. That is insane to me. And then, so like, are they just supposed, like the tip culture? I know I've seen all these things, like it's just getting completely out of control, where they don't even give you an option, like not to tip. Like they just spin the thing. You order a cup of coffee, they spin this around. It's like, you want to tip 15, 20, or 25%.
They all have a cancel on it. You can opt out of the tip on those things,
or you have to do like you'll do like a custom tip and then put in 0 or something. Like, but they make it a fucking pain in the ass to not tip them for doing practically nothing. And they, you know, they quote all these aldermen and the mayor saying, "Oh, this is gonna help like 65,000 people earn a living wage or whatever." It's like, no, it's not. Like your first increase, this guy already cut like 20% of his workforce. So yeah, that 65,000 number, I guarantee you that's based on nobody losing their job because of these increases. Now, if you double what they have to pay them.
Yeah, at the beginning of the article, the guy said we used to have 64 positions and now we're down to 45. Like they've cut 19 workers just because of this. Like, yeah,
right.
Okay, so it's going to help so many people, and then you're going to have all of these other people who are now don't have jobs. It's like,
do you want to be employed at $9 an hour or unemployed at 11? Well, those are your choices, because you know you just can't like you can't just be like, yep, nope, you have to pay them this. No, they have to be that productive.
Well, and the more they drive these prices up, the fewer servers they have. The fewer servers they have, the worse the service is. The worse the service is, the fewer people are actually going out to eat. And now you're not making as much anyway. So now you're having to cut more servers because you don't have enough business to pay the ones. So like, and then the fewer servers you have, now the worse the service is going to get. And now
it is. It feeds on itself. It's just like every time they do this with taxation too. And that article did mention that like a lot of restaurants have just closed altogether because they can't make it work. They can't make the numbers work. I mean, the restaurant industry is a pretty tough one to be in. The margins are pretty fucking thin, and it's really difficult to sort of manage all the, you know, all the inventory and shit like that and all the turnover. So clearly this is backfiring, but I guarantee you this will not get repealed. I mean, I would not, if Mayor Johnson and all of these other idiot aldermen are on board with this, because you know, it's going to help pull people out of poverty somehow. You'd think if we, you know, a minimum wage would have done that by now, but it also affects, you know, people of color more. So this is a racial issue too, Justin. So this is going to help all the black and brown servers earn more money because I just demand it. You have to pay them more. Like, this is just so juvenile. It's so goddamn juvenile to just be like, yep, nope, I've decided that this is the wage that should be paid for that job. And they say, you know, what really drives me crazy is like, workers shouldn't have to foot the bill for, and they blame Trump policies in there. One of the quotes said workers shouldn't have to foot the bill for Trump policies, but it's like the people eating at the restaurant are also workers. Like, they work too. So now they have to pay twice the price for their food.
And what Trump policies, what's actually gone into effect in the last 4 months that they're having to pay for?
Yeah. And this, remember, this went into effect in 2024. Trump wasn't in office, but any of these spout, they're just like, oh yeah, you know, we care about the workers, as if the only workers are the ones that are servers that work on tips. What about the workers that don't work on tips that want to go have fucking lunch or dinner? They have to pay twice as much. Okay. But then they'll come up with some other program for them. Then they'll have a program and everybody will have a program and they'll destroy every fucking industry and we'll have, you know, 20% unemployment.
Well, Johnny, they've got us. Illinois has a solution to all of these problems. They're just going to make more money off of taxes, right?
Yep. Yeah, this is a great one.
Adding a sales tax to services is limited in the U.S., with 46 states generally not taxing services. Illinois may break from the pact and start adding sales tax to haircuts, lawn care, car repair, and a long list of other services expected to cost around $2.7 billion.
Yes, so this is an attempt to shore up that $1.2 billion shortfall that we've mentioned before. Fitch also just downgraded the I think the outlook for Chicago because they haven't come up with any fucking meaningful solutions to this. So they downgraded them like a negative outlook or something like that. Yeah. Again, too late and totally insufficient. But so, yeah, now they're going to tax your Netflix subscription, your haircuts. There's a whole list of things in there. Yeah.
Netflix and streaming services, rideshare services such as Uber and Lyft, gym memberships, barbershops and beauty salons, car washes and car repair, plumbing, electrical and other repair, lawn care, and landscaping.
Okay. Yeah. So, again, dude, how many more times are they going to go back to that well? And how many more people are going to put up with it? This is not a tax problem, and this is a microcosm of the issues that we have as a country, where the government is too big, it's too overbearing, it's spending too much money. We can't possibly meet all these obligations that they've promised, all these pensions and everything like that. And so what do? They increase property taxes. When they can't increase property taxes anymore, now they're coming after your fucking gym membership and your haircut.
And you want to talk about the city of Chicago holding the entire state by the balls. The whole reason that they're looking to implement this is because, here we go. Members of the Illinois General Assembly said their Democratic peers are in stealth mode trying to pass the massive tax increases before adjournment May 31st. They are claiming the money is needed to solve Chicago's Regional Transit Authority fiscal crisis. The RTA includes the Chicago Transit Authority, Metro, and Pace mass transit systems serving the Chicago suburbs. They don't have enough money to fund their own like massive transportation service apparatus. And so they're having the entire state raise taxes on everybody to fund this for Chicago.
Yeah. And I mean, if we wanted to spend another 15 minutes of me showing you brawls on the fucking train platforms of the CTA, we could do that. I send Justin probably 2 or 3 of those a week, just in case we run out of things to talk about. And it's like, dude, they're like the public transportation in Chicago, while it like the routes that they have are great. Like you can get just about anywhere using the buses and the trains, but they've become so fucking ridiculous, either dangerous or like destitute. Nobody wants to use them anymore. And again, like all of this shit could be done privately. It would be affordable. It would be better. It would be like more comfortable and safer. And it wouldn't cost the people that aren't using the services a goddamn dime. Somehow people have managed to turn profits providing these exact services. Somehow. But then somehow when the government takes over it, they run huge deficits. You got fucking homeless people, crazy fucking homeless people on all these things, stinking up the place, scaring people. And then you have just brawls breaking out. Okay. Like, People getting stabbed, getting on the bus, getting off the bus. People getting shot on the train. I don't know. And all these taxes that they're collecting is supposed to fix this problem, except that no matter how much they collect, the problems just get bigger and bigger. Where's all the money going? When are you going to see some sort of improvement? I haven't seen anything improve in Chicago my entire life. Things have gotten exponentially worse. It's unbelievable. But it's exactly what's happening on a small scale there, and then on a large scale across the entire country. The government steps in, says, oh, we can't allow the free market to provide this because it just doesn't do a good job in this area. So the government's going to take over. And I know that for some reason that makes people feel like nice and secure, that there's this like government safety blanket or something. But then you look at the result of the government run whatever, and it's an unmitigated disaster, and it costs a fucking fortune. Who would, like, nobody in their right mind would choose a government service over a private service. Nobody does. Not even the people in government, as I was mentioning earlier in the show. They don't use any government things. They use all private stuff because they have the money for it. Why do they have the money for it? Because they stole it from you, telling you that they're going to use it for good things. Except all the things suck. Everything they touch turns to shit. And nobody wants to use public over private, ever. Public bathrooms over private bathrooms. Which one are you choosing, Justin?
I mean, why do you think like Uber and Lyft and stuff like that became so popular, especially in like urban settings? It's like, okay, I have the option to get in a nice, clean car with somebody that I summoned and have already, like, I already know how much the ride is going to cost. I have control over the situation, or I'm going to get in like a taxi or get on a bus. And it's like,
dude, catching a fucking cab is always a hell ride in Chicago, especially in the dead of fucking winter. You gotta stand out there. It's 20 degrees below zero, middle of the night. You can get fucking, jumped, robbed while you're standing on the corner trying to hail one. And then you get into the fucking thing. Before you sit down, it already costs like $5. And then you're just sitting at the red light and the meter's cranking. I mean, and it was so inefficient. There was no innovation in taxi services from like the day taxis were invented until like 2008 or something, like when Uber came out. Like it was the exact same taxi in 1975 as it was in 2005. Was it not? Was there any innovation whatsoever? It's like, okay, yeah, maybe you had like the meter went digital or something. All right. But that's it. And now you have this thing. It's like an app on your phone. It's like, here I am. Meet me here in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Take me here. Here's the price. Okay, boom. And it would be a lot cheaper if there wasn't a lobby putting pressure on the government, because all these fucking cab drivers had bought into this, the taxi medallion monopoly thing that the government's fucking running. And so now they add all these fees and taxes and shit to make it harder for them to undercut taxis. Same Airbnb, same exact fucking thing with the hotel industry. Now Airbnb is much worse than a fucking hotel. You're 90% of the time you're probably better off just booking a hotel room, unless you need like a place for like 10 people. And they've added all kinds of fees and shit because the hotel industry couldn't compete. They couldn't. And so they lobbied government to put in all these regulations to increase the cost so that now the deal's not a deal anymore. And who suffers because of that? Everybody except the hotel industry. It's, oh God. The problems are just, they're endless. They're endless. And there's nothing, like I said, there's just nothing. It doesn't look like there's anything you can do. Elon Musk couldn't accomplish anything. He's given up. He's like, fuck it. I tried to cut. I put forth something, and not only did they not like do like the bare minimum of it, they ignored it completely. And they're just like, yeah, we see all this waste, fraud, and abuse, and we could probably cut out, $500 billion here, but we're not going to do any of that. In fact, we're going to increase everything by trillions. when there was energy behind that movement, they had a mandate from the election to cut everything. Doge was a big part of Trump's election campaign towards the end there when Elon Musk got on board, and they were talking about rolling back government. So they had the the House, the Senate, the presidency. They had the fucking momentum behind them. And what do you get? The same exact shit you always get: a gigantic government spending bill with all these fucking things for special interest carved out. And the problem is just going to get worse and worse until there's just a complete collapse. I mean, there's just no way this can go on forever. If you could just do this kind of shit in perpetuity, it would be easy to run a country. You just keep spending more money. You just keep printing more money and giving it out to people. It would be so simple. There would be no poverty. If you just took all this like democratic socialism to its logical conclusion, and why would there be any suffering in the world if we can just print money and give it to people? Just grow government, have everybody live off the government. What's the problem? Oh yeah, the government doesn't produce anything. It can't give you anything that it first hasn't taken away from somebody else. And our government has taken not just stuff that we currently have, they've taken stuff for the next 200 years that hasn't been produced yet, and they've promised it to people. And it's like, hey, we might not be able to meet all those obligations. They fucking freak out. And it's the exact same thing. Oh, year after year, there's nothing that the Republicans have accomplished that they claim to be about. Every single time they get control, they just fucking do the exact same thing Democrats do, which is even more like infuriating to watch, because they talk about free markets and capitalism and deregulation, and they don't do any of it. And so when they talk about that, but they institute, bigger government policies, and those inevitably fail, well, it just gives ammunition to the side that's against all these things that would make the country better, to be like, see, look, deregulation. Look what happens when every time you've probably seen these posts on Twitter where they're like, yeah, every time a Republican gets in, they have this great economy and they crash it because they deregulate everything. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's ridiculous. So I don't know, dude. This is just a complete failure in my mind from the Republican Party. And I've never seen a more anti-establishment Republican part. Like the cabinet that Donald Trump has put together was the least swampy that I've seen. That's not to say there wasn't any swampiness in there, but if anybody was going to get to get some sort of a result to kind of give you hope for the future, I feel like it would have been this. And then the first opportunity, it's just oh no, we got to do this, and then in a couple of years we can address.
And it's like you alluded to earlier, and the host was talking to Ron Johnson about in that clip. It's why hasn't any of this even come up for a vote in the House? It's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who Trump puts in his cabinet. You still have to go through the House, and you still have to go through the Senate. For all the three branches of government thing, it's so wonderful and great, except that then you end up with nothing. And that was the intent, was for the government to do nothing. But then it didn't do nothing, and it did way too much. And now we're in a position where it needs to do fucking something, but it won't. So it's working.
Right.
It's working the way it was supposed to.
But for all the time it broke it.
Yeah. After all that time when it didn't work the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. The checks and balances only work when you try to cut government. When you try to grow government, all of a sudden, all these fucking roadblocks that the Constitution is supposed to throw up, magically they disappear.
Yeah,
and you get trillions of fucking spending. You get all these unconstitutional fucking monstrosities. Everything the government's 95% of what the federal government is doing is unconstitutional. Clearly unconstitutional. There shouldn't even be a fucking debate about it. But yeah, none of the chains of the Constitution seem to bind the government down when they want to expand. It's only when you want to try to roll it back, then they're just like, oh no, that's unconstitutional. We can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. We have this mandatory spending. That dude, I hate that fucking word. What's mandatory about? Why do you have to do that? Who said? How many times has the government fucking promised something to people and reneged on the promise? Talk to Pocahontas and the rest of the Indians about that. As long as the grass grows and the river flows, right? Okay. Yeah, 30 acres and a mule. How about that? Like, they promise things all the time and they renege on it. So why can't we get rid of this mandatory spending again? Yeah, they just don't want to. So they claim that they can't. And by the way, all that mandatory spending is unconstitutional. They're not even allowed to loan money to the American people. Like anytime they try to loan, like they can borrow, but they can't make loans. There's no fucking authorization to do that. So the whole student loan thing's unconstitutional. The whole education thing's unconstitutional. All this housing and urban unconstitutional. Everything they're doing, they don't have the authority to do it. But somehow they manage to get around it. And when you try to roll it back, now it's like, oh, we don't have the authority to roll it back. So it's impossible, essentially. It's impossible to get government smaller. I don't know what else to say. I guess we can get out of there on that. Coming up on time. We got anything else?
The other two things we had to make for a good Friday fare. We got Booty Judge and Idris Elba talking about how to prevent knife attacks in Great Britain. Those are good Friday. Those are good Friday clips.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna move to the UK and apply for my knife permit. But yeah, this is I mean, I could go on and on for hours about how fucked up the government is and how it just seems impossible to get rid of it. And it's all just baked into the equation. And there's no other thing, like there's nothing. If anything in the private sector tried to pull what the government's pulling, people would rightfully call bullshit on it. But for whatever reason, they just can't see past this this facade that the government has created, where it's like, yeah, okay, so how are we going to roll if all of these people are dependent on the government? And I mean, the people working in there making millions, they're never going to vote to take the millions away from themselves. I don't know if I would do that myself, making fucking hundreds of millions of dollars every year. I would want to, like, maybe after I made a couple $100 million, I'd be like, okay, yeah, now we can roll this back a little bit. But these are fucking power hungry, narcissistic monsters. They're never going to fucking roll it back because that means that their fucking gravy train ends. How many people would vote to, chop themselves off at the fucking knees? Not many. And therein lies the problem. So yeah, we'll wrap up here. We're going pretty long today. We're going to do a Friday show, right? Yeah. Friday show. And is it happy hour week? I think it might be, or is that last week? I can't remember. No, it's this week. Yeah.
So I'll be working either way. I'll be off next week.
Yeah, we'll do a happy hour on Friday and a regularly scheduled show. You got anything else going on?
Not that I can think of. Not off the top of my head.
You have all this free time now that you got a chauffeur.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to see how this goes. It's this will be his first week with a license and able to drive himself around and take his sister places when he wants to, because he's already volunteered to take Katie to a thing she's got tomorrow because he wants to go see his girlfriend. So we're going to see how all this goes. And I told him, I was like, don't do what I did when I first got my license, because I got my license on a Monday and I got my first ticket that Friday. I was like, so let's not have a repeat performance of what the old man did.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep everybody posted on how that goes. And we'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode. Until then, you know what to do. Just keep on peddling that so-called fiction. Peace.